All right, everybody, this is the last patch notes rundown that I think I'll probably be doing this set. Unless you guys really want a patch notes rundown for 15.9, the for fun patch. But this is the world's patch. This is the end of the competitive patches. Next patch, there's going to be like a lot of like more fun system changes. Usually, they call it the for fun patch, so they're going to try to do something like kind of wacky. But this is supposed to be trying to get the patch and the state of Set 15, KO Coliseum, into a spot where the World Championship feels pretty balanced and reasonable. And whether or not you feel like it has been, I feel like the one thing we can say about 15.7 is that I think this past patch is probably the best patch that we've ever had. I think that, sorry, if we've ever had for this set. I know that some people were saying that this patch was bad because of Crystal Gambit, but in reality, this is probably the most diverse patch we've had, where a lot of things were playable. On the B patch, the A patch was... Let's not talk about the A patch. The A patch was like pretty gross. It was a bunch of 7 mech. Fast 9 was really good. And then there was a bunch of reroll comps that were like... You either Fast 9 or rerolled. And Fast 9 included mech, where you try to flip for Yone. And you try to play mech pilot. And that entire dynamic is really frustrating. But the B patch I felt like was pretty good, because even though 5 Crystal Gambit Ashe was really strong, it felt like there was... it couldn't really be 3 Ashe players in a lobby, especially because players started adapting and holding Ashes. Because if they're stuck on Ashe 1, we've seen so many players go 6, 7, 8 with Ashe because there were too many people forcing it. And yeah, maybe one person makes it out and one Ashe player wins the lobby. But if you just play tempo a lot of times, you can actually win. And it's mainly around these 4 costs of Volibear, Jinx, and Samiro. Those are kind of the 3, 4 costs that people really want to play around. You could try to play around Yuumi. You could try to play around Karma and Akali, and maybe some Rise, but those are just generally weaker. I would say that right now, the biggest flaws in the meta is that AP is too weak, relatively speaking, but AD is phenomenal. I would say Ashe is really good. Volibear, Jinx, because Kraken is a lot better. Like, Kraken was one of the biggest revelations of the last patch, where if you had a Kraken slam, you can actually play Xayah reroll. You can play Kraken on Jinx, especially because they nerfed a bunch of things around Star Guardian, so now Kraken builds started taking its place. And Volibear ended up being a lot better anyways. So there's a lot, there's more variety at the top of the meta. For most of the sets, if you guys have followed the TFT Academy tier list, it's like 1 comp in S tier, and then like 5 and 8 tier, and then everything else. For the first time in a while, it felt like things opened up a little bit more. But that's not to say that the patch is perfect. So we're going to be nerfing. When I say we, I don't work at Riot. Sorry, disclaimer. I don't work at Riot. I meant we as a collective whole, as a game, are going to be trying to nerf some of the best things. And I don't think there's that many buffs. Just as a spoiler alert, they're not going to be buffing some of these lower played 4 costs. I don't think they're buffing Akali, for example. Nor do I think they should buff Akali, because I think that unit is terrible to play against. And yeah, I'm okay with that. But before we move forward, I've been doing this thing where I look at about some of the predictions about the meta. Just kind of this is me just doing some light predictions. Got some things wrong, got some things right. Some of them are easy to get right. Some of them are hard to get right. For one thing, I thought Malzahar was going to be a lot weaker because, he lost his best fruit. He got bug fixed. There's a Crystal Gambit nerf. I was wrong. He ended up being one of the best, if not the best reroll comps in the game. Because they found out about Double Trouble Malzahar, because Noxious Trap is insane. Yasuo did end up losing out, though. No one really is picking Esekai, though. And Kabuko did end up becoming less of a carry. Best defense Kabuko is basically dead. Instead, you played Janna. And then the biggest winners of the patch, I mean, Mech was obviously a massive winner, but then they nerfed it. Perfect Form Zac. Oh, this is technically a miss. I think this Augment's not that great. But it's okay. I guess it's okay if you play around Malzahar. Volibear was a huge buff and got a big win, and he's now part of the meta. Rage Blade Slam to Fast 9, that probably deserves a double check mark because that was just insane. And then some of these other changes. I gave a yellow check mark to Ashe because it was not Ashe Duelist, it was Crystal Gambit Ashe. I was like, yeah, they buffed Ashe, but is it going to be Duelist? It's not. It's Crystal Gambit. And yeah, Crystal Gambit ended up being really, really ridiculous. So this patch, just as to let you guys know, this patch is so small that I didn't even put a table of contents because there's 6 slides and we're done. So just to let you know, there's probably going to be on average 1 to 2 changes per slide. So the only changes to traits is that they're nerfing Crystal Gambit. This is not going to be a surprise, but Crystal Gambit is way too good. So they're nerfing the multiplier on stage 4. This is supposed to hurt the people that feel like Crystal Gambit is such good value that if you win streak early, a very common strategy right now is you win early, then at the end of stage 3, specifically at 3-6, you put in Crystal Gambit, so that way you lose 6 rounds, 5 on stage 4 plus the last round of stage 3, then you cash out at 30 HP, 20 HP, and then play for a fast 9. And that was like a way that you can get to level 9 even without an econ augment. They're trying to nerf that specific dynamic, so they're reducing the multiplier. Now, funnily enough, this actually might end up helping some fast 9 spots, because the multiplier on stage 4 being worse means that you're less likely to hit the 300 threshold. And the 300 threshold, if you've ever seen, sometimes actually might not be good for specific fast 9, because you actually want gold. And if you look at 250, it gives you on average a lot more gold, especially with the duplicator, than 300, because 300 gives you a tactician's crown at 15 gold. Would you rather have 35 gold or 15 gold in the tactician's crown? If you're fast 9ing, you actually just want the gold a lot. So I think the intention of this nerf is generally correct. I think it actually doesn't do anything, or actually it might even like low-key help the fast 9. So we'll see what ends up happening. I think what this hurts is of course the Crystal Gambit player that also is farming rewards while playing 5 crystal and then cashing out as well. So there's the 5 crystal Gambit player that plays Ash, that's gonna open the chest every 3 rounds anyways. They're probably gonna suffer a little bit more, but it ended up might being nice anyways for fast 9. So don't fear if you're a fast 9 enjoyer. And then the 5 kills needed. This is basically they're just increasing the cap of how many kills you need. The biggest deal is 9 to 12. That's a really, really big deal, because you can get locked out for 2 to 3 rounds per fight, and or it goes from like 2 rounds to 3 rounds per stage. Sorry, and then that might be a really big deal where you can't snowball your lead. So this is a huge nerf to 5 Crystal Gambit, which is justified, and that's going to shift the meta a lot, because most people are so used to 5 Crystal Gambit snowballing, running away with the game. We'll have to see. This is not going to be impossible to play 5 Crystal. It's just going to be less easy to execute and stabilize. All right, 2 cost champions. So there's only I guess I didn't really write it down, but there's no change to 1 cost champions. We're going straight from trades to 2 cost champions. 1 costs have been actually in a pretty decent spot for a while. I think every opener is viable. The weakest openers are like Sivir and KO, but those are situational rerolls. So 1 cost balance has generally been pretty good. 2 costs, they're gonna buff Kai'Sa, because Kai'Sa is probably the only 2 cost carry that is not really seeing play. You can argue that like Lux and a couple of other 2 costs might not be, but at least they have their roles in Soul Fighter. You pretty much never play Kai'Sa unless you're trying to specifically hyper carry her as a Supreme Cell, because she's not part of a deep vertical. So Kai'Sa's seeing almost no play. And so they're buffing Kai'Sa's baseline ability damage. And remember, it might look like a 2 AD buff for her ability damage, but that is something that scales pretty aggressively as she snowballs. So it can be a big deal. And she's also missile based, right? Remember, she also has the ability to get more missiles off bullet hell. And they did buff bullet hell as well last patch for Kai'Sa. So just keep that in mind. I don't these numbers are like hard to understand, because they're just like it's just very abstract to me. Like, what does 34 missile versus 32 per missile mean? I'm not exactly sure. But if you break it down by percentage, it's like a 5%, like probably like a 6.5% buff. So that's okay. That's 6 to 7% buff. It's helpful. It's definitely not irrelevant. Also, I will say one thing: Kai'Sa 2 already. If you somehow high roll a Kai'Sa 2 early, let's say you get off of 2 trick or something, you take it off an augment. It's not bad. I think anyone who's played Kai'Sa 2 early knows that she can do well. It's just that you can't really carry her. So. Katarina's getting nerfed. This makes a lot of sense. They're nerfing specifically 7 Battle Academia Katarina, where her potential is a little bit lower, so she's gonna do a little bit less damage. It's relevant. It doesn't mean Katarina's gonna be unplayable. It just means that you probably can't be as stable as long without being ahead. So Katarina has been the best 2 cost reroll, I believe. I actually think Xayah might be even a little bit better, but Katarina has been very, very high potential, even winning some straight up lobbies in spots where it feels like she shouldn't. So they're just nerfing her. Makes sense. 3-cost champions. The only change is Rammus is getting buffed again. This should be green. Sorry about that. I need to... How do I understand this without colors? They're buffing his shield one more time. This is 4 buffs in a row, or 3 buffs in a row for Rammus. He's basically the last performing monster trainer that they feel like is not good. This will probably make the Double Trouble Rammus Malzahar build very, very good. It already is probably the true best reroll comp in the game if you get an augment for it. So Double Trouble Malzahar Rammus will be really insane. But theoretically, if you buff Rammus to be universally good, that actually nerfs things like Double Trouble Rammus Malzahar, because more people will be picking up Rammus and it'll be harder for you to 3-star. But ideally, you get an opportunity to play around Rammus more. Smolder, as you guys know, is very good right now. I probably say Smolder is the best monster trainer at the moment, better than Kog'Maw. And Kog'Maw is good, but you need artifacts if you have the right spot for it. So they're trying to get Rammus to a good spot. They're not nerfing or buffing any of the 3-costs, though. So I personally don't think they have to, because 3-costs look really good if you get them. Like, in the data, every 3-cost 3-star looks good. When I was talking to them, they said, like, do you think any 3-cost needs buffed? I think Caitlyn 2 specifically is pretty trash. I also think a couple of other 3-cost, like, because I think Caitlyn Jace struggles a lot because of how bad Caitlyn really is when she's an item carry. I mean, Jace is not great either, but he's good with heavyweights at least, or at least you put him in the heavyweight board. So there's a couple of other 3-costs that probably could use some love, but they're just gonna stay here on Rammus. Going on the 4-cost, we have Jarvan. Jarvan's getting a buff. This is a buff to mech and strategist protectors. I think where they write in their patch notes. They wrote in their patch notes that they specifically feel like Jarvan is just a CC bot, and they don't feel like he can actually tank, and they want Jarvan to tank a little bit more. There's 2 things that can happen from this. One, Jarvan can basically cast, but he might be able to cast a lot more, like more than once, if you actually itemize him, which can swing fights dramatically. As you guys know, AoE CC is one of the most powerful things late game in TFT. So any comp that wants to play Jarvan right now, so Danner reroll, for example, or just anything that really splashes in mech. Jarvan also was played in Crystal Gambit Ash, but I'm assuming that comp's going to take a pretty big step back. You're going to want to itemize Jarvan sometimes, outside of just putting like 1 Vow on him, because the HP seal scaling is a lot. That's a 25% or 33% buff for max HP scaling. The other thing is that maybe Jarvan 1 casts with no items now, or fewer items. Maybe you don't need Jarvan to... I mean, okay, let's not get over ahead of ourselves. Jarvan 1 with no items is still not going to cast. Just kidding. But like, there's a possibility that happens. You never know. 5-cost champions. Lee Sin is getting nerfed. It's understandable. This guy is basically the best single target nuker in the game. Way too strong. They're not nerfing anything else about Fast 9, though. They're not nerfing Seraphine. They're not nerfing... they're not nerfing Twisted Fate. They're not nerfing like any other of the 5-costs, like Braum, whatnot. I think they're happy with how powerful 5-costs feel, because 5-costs should be strong. It's just that Lee Sin does a little bit too much damage, especially at 1-star. 1-star Lee Sin still can like hyper stabilize you if you build around him correctly. So Lee Sin is just needs to get taken down a peg. So they're definitely going to do a good job. Oh, they're definitely doing a good job targeting the biggest culprit of it. I do think that this is going to be a big beneficiary to the other Fast 9 boards that feel like they don't have to worry about Lee Sin as much. But overall, I think that this is the correct unit to nerf as priority number 1. That's it for champions. Let's go to augments. So, okay, all the colors are not changed there. So, Call to Chaos, the range carry golem is getting removed in 07. Range carry golem is getting removed. It's no longer in the game. If you guys don't know, the range carry golem had a sniper's focus attached to it, and they nerfed sniper's focus. So, sniper's focus is no longer a good item, and so that is no longer an outcome that you're even remotely acceptable with. I actually literally played a ladder game right before doing this patch notes where I clicked Call to Chaos and it gave me the golem, and let me tell you something, it was as horrendous as advertised. It is so bad. So definitely a good change here, because they want to make Yes, call it chaos. You know, the flavor of it is you could theoretically get a high roll, you could get a low roll, but it's good that they removed it because ultimately it's just not an out. You don't want to be able to like auto lose for getting that. But you can still get the other RNG golem. I think, just to be clear, I think you can get other RNG golem, just not the range carry version of it. Healing Orbs is getting buffed and no longer appears on 2-1. Both for the 1 and 2, the 2-star version of it, I guess, the silver and gold. Just buffing Healing Orbs. I guess it's just underperforming. And Raid Boss is getting nerfed. Raid Boss is getting nerfed because I think Raid Boss in general was probably overperforming for 6 Bastion. And Raid Boss is really, really good with hero augments in particular, specifically the Shen hero augments. I hope that they made it exclusive, but I don't believe they did. But overall, Raid Boss is just performing because Expansion was really good. That's basically it. There are no other augment choice or changes besides this, which is pretty surprising to me. I feel like I talk about this pretty often, but I feel like this set, there's actually a lot of augments that feel super bad to be presented choices with. But I guess their data, like they wouldn't make changes they wouldn't make these few changes unless they felt like the augments were really far out of line. So I guess a lot of augments fall within range data wise for them. I'm just very surprised that there weren't more augment changes personally throughout the course of this set. But it also could be, there's a possibility that they are worried that making too many big augment changes would radically shift things, and they don't have time to B-patch it for the World Championship. So they might be taking a conservative approach. The only item change that we have documented for set 15 is that Radiant Kraken is getting nerfed. Kraken, as you guys know, is a really powerful item. They like it that way. They want to enable more carries. More powerful items like Kraken have enabled more carries. I argued that maybe you could open up a little bit more AP with this way, but they're nerfing Radiant Kraken in particular because that item is way overstated because they buffed both the base and the Radiant. They do this a couple of times this patch or this set where they buff the base item and the Radiant item, and sometimes that goes way over the line. Giant Slayer is another example where they did that. They've also done it with like Quicksilver and Radiant Quicksilver, and it wasn't a problem. So I think this is just one of the things that they're just correcting for because Radiant Kraken was insane. Partially propped up by the fact that if you got Radiant Kraken to be really good on Ashe, but it just makes sense. Power-ups. The power-up changes, they're making power-ups more consistent. So Star Student and Star Sailor, these are the things that help your verticals for those comps. Like Star Student gives you more Star Guardian bonus, Star Student gives you more gives you a bonus for your Battle Academia units, and Star Sailor gives you more stats for your Star Guardians. They're just making that requirement go from 5 and 4 respectively to 7 and 5. So that way it feels like you don't have to do the bench everything and then field everything to get the best fruit odds. If you want Star Sailor on Star Guardians, play 5 Star Guardians. If you want Star Student on Battle Academia, play 7 Battle Academia. Otherwise, they're just cleaning up your fruit appearances, just making that pain point a little bit less. And then they're buffing Tentacle Smash. Tentacle Smash will now be happening every 8 seconds instead of 9 seconds. Tentacle Smash is a 1 hex AoE stun for whoever's holding it. So maybe that ends up being good. I remember Disrupt saying that he thinks this is the worst power-up in the game. So they're buffing it from 9 to 8 seconds. That's usually a big deal to buff stun timing to be earlier. So don't sleep on that. It might end up being pretty good. I believe that is it for set 15. So the other half of this patch is buffing things and nerfing things in set 7. So if you guys are playing the set 7 revival, they are balance patching it. The first thing they're doing is they're requiring the Jade Prismatic to be 11 instead of 10 because Prismatic Jade was way too easy to hit. 3, 5, 7, 10. There's like multiple ways you could get there pretty easily due to different augments they introduced into the game. So they're just making it so if you want to hit vertical Prismatic Jade, it's going to be less likely. They're buffing Swift Shots to give you more attack speed per hex distance between you and your opponent. It's kind of like Sniper, right? You deal more damage per hex between you and your opponent. Swift Shot is the attack speed version of it. They're going to be buffing that because people don't really play anything besides 2 Swift Shot. I don't really think this is going to make a big difference because the Swift Shot units themselves aren't really high quality except for Xayah. It's like Ezreal, Twitch, Xayah, and Varus. I don't know if you're going to play some vertical Swift Shot, but they're making it better. A bunch of unit changes. They're nerfing some of the best comps in the meta. So Olaf and Diana in general, way too good. So we're nerfing those units. They deal way too much damage, especially because if you start optimizing around them with radiant items as frequently as you can get them, they are way too good. And artifacts. You have to remember that set 7 didn't have the giant wave of new artifacts from set 11. So with a bunch of artifacts on Olaf in particular, he is ridiculous. So they're nerfing that. Lee Sin is getting a light nerf. This is actually not that big of a deal. I think it's just because Lee Sin's so popular. They don't want Dragonmancer Lee Sin to feel that much worse, but they're giving him a very, very light touch. This is the Lee Sin Dragonmancer one shot or one kick man. You play a bunch of Dragonmancers or Tempest and just have him kick. Nunu's getting buffed, so if you love trying out the Dragonmancer Nunu, maybe you should give Nunu a shot again, because remember, this scales pretty aggressively, so Nunu 3 might end up being better. The reality is Nunu is actually quite bad, so I tried Dragonmancer Nunu and it felt horrendous. maybe Nunu will actually do the thing now. In fact, a lot of Mirage in general felt bad. That's why they're buffing Deja. Deja is a little bit below average, but I will say the number one reason why I feel like Deja is bad is because people play her very greedy. Every time I see pirates in the lobby, people just play Deja, and you're not really supposed to stay on vertical Mirage, but it makes Deja look really bad. Volibear is also getting buffed. This part I can't really speak about. I haven't really played much Volibear, but he's part of the Shimmer Scale line. Shimmer Scale units in general do really bad because it's also a very greedy Fast 9 line, so that could be one of the elements of it, trying to make the Shimmer Scale a little more consistent. And they're also buffing 3-star units. They're buffing 3-star Itis to be better, because I guess 3-star Itis sucked. They're buffing 3-star Sohm and 3-star Siphon, specifically. So if you hit 3-star Dragon, it should feel really good. And also in set revivals, it's a lot easier to 3-star units, because I believe people say that the bag size is bigger. Either way, there's a lot more resources in set 7 because you get so much econ. So they are buffing all those 3-star dragons. And then one other nerf, they're going to be nerfing Graves, because Graves is really good in the Seraphine Mystic Graves comp. That's the comp where you put a Morello on Seraphine, you play a bunch of Mystics, and you splash in Graves to clean up for Seraphine. And they're just taking down Graves a tiny bit, because I guess he's doing a little bit too much damage. And then augments for set 7, they're going to be buffing the hero augments. Sorry again, no fancy colors. Soul Eater stacks on ability is now going from 1 to 3. So this is the Nasus hero augment, where every time he gets a kill, he gets permanent stacks. This is Q from League of Legends. They're reducing his base AD, though, because his scaling is going to be really aggressive. And now also gains 50% bonus attack speed, which is crazy, because I'm pretty sure this augment is terrible, but now 50% bonus attack speed plus 3 times the scaling. Maybe Nasus' hero augment's going to be actually really good. And then Itis Touch. This is a hero augment for Itis. They're buffing the 3-star just to make it consistent. 3-star Itis is going to be really good. And then Relic from the past, which is the Dark Flight Zeke's Herald, is also going to get buffed, because I guess they felt like that was not enough. They're buffing Dark Flight if you want to get that Relic. Finally, we have bug fixes. Tankzilla champions are less likely to rarely jump off the screen. This is back in Set 15 world. So if you're playing Tankzilla, you know how sometimes they jump up the ceiling. They have Space Jam. They have flubber shoes. They're just jumping up. I might be dating myself with that one. I don't even know if anybody even knows what Space Jam is anymore. Dr. Mundo's champion augment ability can no longer travel to other boards when missing. I didn't even realize that was a thing. Like, when I was doing this patch notes, Dr. Mundo could throw his cleaver or his chair, and it can hit other people on different boards. Rocket Grab no longer interferes with enemy targeting at the start of combat. That's definitely one interaction about Rocket Grab that's really good. I think Rocket Grab needed to get nerfed in general, but yeah, there's that. And then Uncharted Realms is for set 7. We added Bard dancing back to spell tooltip, so that Bard trade tooltip makes more sense. So there's definitely a little bit more tech stuff. And then Uncharted Realms, Lux 4 now deals damage as expected. Because if you've ever played Astral, 4-star Lux for some reason, I think does 0 damage. And I think literally 0 damage, as in she doesn't deal anything. So they are actually fixing that, because that's not intended. I think it might have been a mistake, since maybe they didn't have 4-star Lux coded properly. And that's it. That's the patch notes. Pretty straightforward, right? Very simple. Nothing. They don't want to mess too much with what's going on, so that is going to be it. And this is probably gonna be my last patch notes rundown. I mean, we'll see. We'll see if I want to do anything for 15.9, the 4 fun patch. Maybe if there's high demand for it. But this one is mainly focused on the World Championships because again, they don't want to tamper too much with what's going on in the competitive scene. But for 15.9, that'll be the last patch of the set, and then we're gonna be at set 16, Lore and Legends, aka the best set of all time. So thanks for watching and reading. And I guess if this is it for you, a lot of people say this, like, I'm done. I've gone through it. I want to see if there's anything interesting. I'm done with it. That's totally fine. We'll see you in a couple weeks for set 16. Otherwise, the rest of us will keep chugging along and enjoying TFT until the next set.